Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves a deck tech today. We're gonna go ahead and get started with Dori and her Dawn Blade. That's code for it right there, in case you're wondering. And as for the equipment, the standard issue against heavy blocks, we're gonna go ahead with Courage Blade Hole. Arcanite Skullcap, Courage Blade Hole, Great Force Bracer, and of course Refraction Boulders against your non-arcane. So you want to be blocking out as much, and you can use this against, for example, Pain for that matter, because you really want to put your pressure down, because if they start getting more cards and they're banished them, that's blood tap, they're going to overwhelm you very quickly. And it's very important to put your foot on the gas pedal against them. You could run a single, but I preferably prefer the Arcanite Skullcap allow me to block, and it gets turned on more often because they are definitely attacking more so as the game goes on, for that matter. But as for your wizard matchup, you're typically going to be running a normal robe, hood, gloves, alongside with fraction boulders. And these two cards right here are really just fillers, for that matter. I just got them in there just for the heck of it, just in case. But could use Spring Tunic against grinder matchups. For example, if there was ever an OTK Viscerai coming back, I don't know. I doubt that with Kano on the rise. For that matter, when it comes to blitz skirmishes, for that matter. It's really hard to say, but we're gonna go ahead and get started with, of course, over here in the Gogan town, we got access to Glint the Quicksilver, for that matter. Even if you don't get reprise, it can be blowout. In conjunction with Twinning Blade 2, it can be total surprise value if you have didn't play Warrior's Fire or Hit and Run or Spoils of War. You could really surprise them with a Glint plus Twinning Blade, for that matter. Got access to Hit and Run, for that matter, too. Pitches for blue, too, which is important against Kano matchup, along with Glint the Quicksilver. Spoils of War, good for pumping your attack. Even better if you got access to Dawnblade counter, because now you're they just can't block with a single card plus the equipment. You're either stripping two cards out of their hand, or you're stripping 1 plus 2 equipment blocks, for that matter. Not an ideal situation. We got the full package of Warriors Fire, whether it's for pumping up a decent amount, or even a good amount with a Dawnblade counter, or even Pitch Fire, or even threatening +1 to gain Gogan, can get cards out of the opponent's hand, for that matter, with the blue Warriors Fire. But anyway, we're going to be moving on to the next section, for that matter. Here we go with the staple cards, of course. Steelblade Supremacy. Knowing how to use this is going to be very important. Whether you use it to draw cards out of your opponent's hand, so that way they can't go big, or you draw cards out of their hand and devastate them with a big 4 or 5 card hand, for that matter. Especially in conjunction with Ironsong Determination, these two are best friends right here for getting lots of damage for that matter. But another staple card that is in the attack reaction department is the Singing Steel Blade. That thing is phenomenal. Whether it's they block evenly, you can and they fully blocked. You know they can't block anymore if they got no cards in hand or no cards in arsenal. Then you know you can get yourself a Glint the Quicksilver, for that matter, and give yourself Gogan, because one's enough just to break through over the top, for that matter. But it's even powerful with cards such as Route, for that matter. Because this thing can get downright nasty. Route, when its conditions triggers, it's just as powerful for bluffing, just as powerful as the overpower. And guess what? I run 0. And as the title says, I am a 0 overpower deck, and I got enough cards in here that will force more blocks. That will force your opponent to strip more cards out of their hands, and usually that's what overpower is for, because you can get over the hump and get dori and maybe a go again ability simply because of warrior's valor for that matter. But I find route does the trick too as well. But of course we also have access to a single copy of Twinning Blade. Correct, yeah. Single copy, and this is very phenomenally good with unconditional go again. We got currently 6 ways in the deck to do that. Lint, hit and run, spoils of war. Those are your ways of triggering unconditional go again. Especially in conjunction if you have not used Dori's ability. And you got, for example, Steel Blade Supremacy out and drawing the right cards, you can get trigger that, then attack again, then trigger Dori's ability, and similarly, hopefully you got a go again effect, whether it's a warrior's valor or an unconditional one, then you can really do some damage, especially with Steel Blade Supremacy for that matter. But anyway, we also have access to Stroke of Foresight. It's just a pump spell, so is Out for Blood, run the same amount. But another card I'd like to bring your attention to is, of course, the Iron Song response. You might get caught in a situation to where you have a single blue card in your hand for pitch value, but you want to preserve your hand. Maybe you want to keep on putting pressure on the opponent while putting a card in the arsenal can help you get over the hump for that matter. And this can be very ideal. And cards such as Iron Song Response Red help because they don't take a card out of your hand and they can set up your arsenal really well for another big turn for that matter. If you, for example, draw into Steel Blade Supremacy. And hopefully in conjunction with Iron Song Determination, but even then, Steel Blade Supremacy in conjunction with Route for that matter can do some damage as well. Or even in conjunction with Sting and Steel Blade, there's so much you can do. And even Blue Iron Song Response can be useful. For example, if they are even neck to neck on defense value to your attack power, you can just break parity and see if you can use a defense reaction. That's typically gotta be, they don't want to use it unless they can get more value out of it, but if you're threatening Gogan plus Dori ability and causing more problems, then they're more likely to use it to stop the attack in its tracks, especially in conjunction with Warrior's Valor for that matter. But anyway, Iron Song Response is definitely good for that matter in these particular situations, but of course we're going to move on to the non-attack action cards. We have access to Sharpened Steel, which is good for pumping your attack up and not costing anything. But another card that's actually really good for this matter is, for example, Plow Through. Seeing as how Pyra is very prevalent in the meta, Plow Through is a very good card simply because it allows you to gain access to make interesting decision makings skills that your opponent's going to have to make, because if they block with attack action, all of a sudden this pumps up to 4, and we all know what that means. You're forcing a red defense reaction out of their hand, or an additional card besides 2 cards for that matter. And Plow Through can make some interesting choices in particular, especially if they are dealing with a heavy red hand and they got a single blue resource. You can catch them in an interesting spot, Ira for that matter. This is even good against Shane because they run around a lot of attack action cards because they're trying to overwhelm you before they banish their deck or lose the blood debt for that matter. So Plow through can make some interesting choices against them because they don't want to trigger that +1 because it stays until the end of the turn too as well. This is Centauri Saber text. If they block the attack action card, stays until the end of the turn. So plow through can be just as useful as triggering a reprise for Out for Blood for that matter. Because but this one stays, and if you're going nuts over the top, for that matter, against Shane, like for example, if you got a twinning blade situation where they overblock and then you got to go again, and then you proc Dori's ability, there's a lot of insane stuff that you can do in that particular situation. But oh, another thing, Plaffer is even good against Bravo. Bravo is becoming more prevalent, and I do have some cards for it because I recognize that they like to dominate a lot, and Bravo needs to run a certain amount of attack actions because if they want to maximize the effect of Towering Titan, for that matter, or even for that matter, Towering Titan, then they need to run a certain amount. So you can definitely force 2 cards out of their hand, and because the vast majority of their deck is blues, you might just be forcing them to use up their armor. Well, in the early phases, you're definitely forcing them to use armor up, so that way they become much more weaker, and when you set up a devastating big turn, then you can go for it, for that matter. But anyway, let's have a look at the defense reactions for that matter. These are the 3 defense reactions that are run currently. Springboard Somersault. It's good resources, pitch resource, but I also find that I need to have some way to defend better out of the arsenal against dominated attacks. I'm definitely not underestimating Bravo for that matter in the near future, or even other decks. Even Rhinar, potentially, or even, for that matter, Levia, if she does show up. Stibblade Chunt, 90% of the time, it's a blue pitch, but it can be used from time to time, but it's rare, I'm not gonna lie. And, utility cards. We got access to Energy Potion plus Sigil Souls. Gotta have this against Wizards. I don't like the Wizard matchup. It's a rough matchup, no doubt about it. Because if you lay down a bunch of non-attack actions like Warrior's Valor in conjunction, Wizard players like to use how the chain works for that matter, is that they can activate chain after you play or activate an ability for that matter. They like to where when you declare your attack, if you put out a bunch of stuff, you've left easy damage on the table for the Kano player. So it's a very important matchup to get your life total high, but also to keep an eye out. I just highly recommend swinging with the Dawnblade, threatening a attack reaction card, so that way then you're gonna start playing mind games with them and make them wonder how much resource does he have. I mean, Energy Potion is good for no room toss, but you can also use it to set up some pretty big turns for that matter. Devastating turns. Like if you want to set up well enough, Energy Potion is definitely a good card for that matter. Setting up with Energy Potion, no doubt about that. But even if you're stuck in a situation to where the opponent has a decent amount of damage that you don't want to die, having access to a single blue card plus a single Energy Potion, all of a sudden you got 5 resources. And if you want to work with 2 cards out of your hand, for example, a 3-card hand for that matter, or a 2-card hand with 1 in the arsenal, you can definitely do some damage, no doubt about it, and force your opponent's hand to do something about this particular situation. No doubt about that. But anyway, that's it for the deck tech for my 0 overpower Dori list. Hope you liked it. the main reason about why I chose not to go with zero overpowers, every now and then you'll get stuck with a clunky hand where you got a bunch of reds and you don't. If you got a couple overpowers, sometimes you're using them to defend to preserve your life total, but I believe you should try to cut them and put more flexible cards that are costing less, because I believe that you should be making effective use out of each and every turn, for that matter, especially in the format against Shane, for that matter, because the more cards they manage with Blood Depth, the more they're going to overwhelm you. And overpower can be useful in circumstances, but there are times to where it can sit in your arsenal or even in your hand, for that matter, and you're like, I got too many reds, not enough resources to launch attack, plus play overpower, and it's like not always the most ideal situation. I've found some success with it, but there's also moments like where I don't like it. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, to say the least, against certain opponents. But anyway, this is Mosso out with Grim Realms Gaming. Have a good day.